Gamer Gab.
Go.
Welcome back to Gamer Gab, guys. We have got a very special guest on the show today. This is the second in our interview series, and we have got Tiptoe the Tank, aka the Lady of Lore. We're so excited to have you on the show today. Thanks for being here.
Oh, hi there. Thank you for having me. I love your guys' set.
Oh, thank
This
you.
looks fabulous.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Okay, so if you're not familiar with the Lady of Lore, pause this video, go over to her YouTube channel, binge watch a bunch of videos like I've been doing over the last couple months, and then come back because this interview will be a lot more fun for you once you have an idea of who she is. So I guess, let's start at the beginning.
Yeah, so tell us, I mean, how did you get started? Obviously, you got started in video gaming before you became the Lady of Lore.
Kind of. I actually got started as a writer. It was gosh, like 4 years ago at this point. I was working a really difficult technical job, a career that wasn't really doing it for me, and somebody had, asked me, what are you doing here? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I didn't have an answer for that. So I did a lot of, soul searching, and I decided that if I could do anything, I would want to be a writer. And so at about that time, I started writing something that eventually became the Hellfire Fables, my original fictional story cast, I guess you could say. Not really a podcast, but it's a series of horror stories. And it took about a year. It was mildly successful. I lost that job. I ended up leaving that job. And because I'd started with Hellfire Fables, I had a history with writing. I had started doing voiceover for it, so I had a setup for everything. And this was like a year into the pandemic. I decided that I was going to just take some time after that job. And I was going to try and do what I wanted to do, and it eventually turned into playing games. I've always loved stories. I've always loved lore. With Hellfire Fables, I became pretty practiced at telling stories, and I just started a YouTube channel. And it took about a year after that for me to actually go full-time with it to become like an actual proper content creator. But really, it started back with writing the Hellfire Fables.
Nice.
Okay, so I went back to your Lady of Lore channel just this morning and looked through your videos at some of the ones that I wanted to talk to you about. And I counted, and you've covered in your videos 16 game series that I have played. And so it's almost like I felt seen.
Yes.
I'm just going to be real with you. It made me feel like you were just talking directly to me through the screen. I mean,
what's great is that people like they enjoy these stories. Like you don't commonly like see that in like online content streamers in particular, like a love for stories and storytelling. But there are a lot of folks that just love this particular niche.
So like, how do you pick the games that you want to do a lore video over?
Well, initially, I kind of initially wanted to be like a horror game lore channel. It was Outlast and Amnesia that really got me started on it. I do have to pay attention to release dates, upcoming titles. So I can't always do passion projects, but it's generally looking at beloved games. So I think like Dishonored was a good example of that. It's games that I think I will be happy doing. It's games that will benefit the channel financially, like in a business sense. Like for example, right now as we're recording this, I have Control and Alan Wake are projects because Alan Wake 2 is coming up, and lucky me, I love that. I love that universe, so it works out great. I've been involved with a couple Bethesda projects in the past, so I have like Doom and all that. So it's really a mixed bag. I have Death Stranding coming up because there's going to be Death Stranding 2. And then I'm going to take a timeout to do a passion project, which is going to be Darkest Dungeon 1, Darkest Dungeon 2. So there's really no rhyme or reason to it. It's just being aware of what's happening in the future.
Nice. Can you tell me, how do you get started? I mean, I was just listening to Silent Hill actually before we recorded this because there's so much to it. How do you go about taking on this huge task, the research and, you know, the voiceover? Obviously, we edit videos, so that part alone, I mean, organizing, you just think differently. But how do you go about doing a project? Where do you start?
If I decide that I enjoy a particular game, and there have been games that I've played with the intention of maybe looking at the lore of it, but I didn't enjoy the game, I didn't like the characters, so I don't do it. But once I decide, like, I enjoy this story, I'm going to do this, it starts with just a timeline, really. I think of it as like a storybook. Like, there's a beginning, a middle, an end. You got to put it all together. Try not to break it up too much because then it gets confusing. But once you have your timeline, then you can go in and you can start, like, filling out the pages. And the story really tells itself once you have everything charted out like that.
So I've noticed that you do, and it's sometimes I find myself like thinking, like questioning the choices that you've made with telling a story in chronological order, like you just said. You set it up like a timeline, because I'm like, okay, you started out with the punchline, you know, like that was the climax right there, and you told it at the very beginning, and so and I'm like, that doesn't come in till later, but it gives you, even though it's a little bit jarring, knowing if you've played a game and you're knowing that setup and that big announcement is coming later in the game, to hear it at the beginning is sort of weird, you know.
There was some pushback on that too, and that was a choice that I was very aware of it when I started getting into the harder games. I think of Dead Space. That was a choice that I decided to keep with for the sake of telling a cohesive story. Like, people can come back years later, like after they've played the game and maybe they've forgotten something, and they can get the full experience from beginning to end. I think of Bayonetta was a good example of this, where that game just goes off the rails. But if you take the time and you timeline it out and you piece it together, it does tell a very cohesive story. And it's easy to miss because, I mean, it's kind of what you said before. They tend to hide story and stuff like that. Oh man, that irritates me so bad when they hide their story. But really, once you have that timeline down, it's just like writing a storybook.
Well, I actually I watched your Elden Ring series before I played the game. And I found that I enjoy it because I know it's been out, but I don't have a good relationship with the Souls games. Like, I've rage quit.
Oh, did they hurt you?
They did.
Oh, no.
They hurt me bad. And like, I knew that it was going to be bad whenever I picked up Dark Souls 2 after having rage quit Dark Souls 1 like a couple years before. I picked up Dark Souls 2, and like that first little settlement that you come to, there's that monument on the cliffside out there, and you can click on it, and it tells you how many concurrent deaths there have been in the game up to that point.
Yeah.
And it was in like the trillions already, and I was like, you know what? I'm out. Like, I'm not about this life. Like, I love myself too much to keep putting myself through this. And so even though Elden Ring was like killing it, you know, I just kept like avoiding it because I was like, I don't want to be hurt again. But like, I picked it up after I watched your videos because I've watched lore videos on all the other Dark Souls games and loved the lore, and it was so interesting. All of those games have such a deep world built around them.
You appreciate it so much more.
And so after I watched your series on Elden Ring, I went and picked it up and played it, and I spent like 150 hours or something in the game, and I appreciated it so much more because I didn't have to play through it 6 times and dig for all of that lore to understand the game and appreciate it more. And so watching your videos actually really made that game for me.
You saying you don't like going through and reading item descriptions for hours on end?
You know, that's what... And
I think
don't
you're the
understand.
weird one here.
We've talked about this.
I know.
We've talked about this
I don't
on the show.
understand From Software's, like, their seeming need to create these incredible stories and then bury them in nonsense where you need like a pickaxe to excavate
games.
this stuff.
Resident Evil. If you don't pick up those papers and read them, you're like, well, I don't know. Like, I'm just going to shoot this zombie over here.
Yeah.
But what would you say? Do you have a favorite video that you have made?
Oh my gosh.
Or least favorite?
Oh. Least favorite, honestly, would probably be the Resident Evil series.
Because so hard.
It's convoluted. There's
Yeah.
retcons. The characters are like mockeries of themselves at certain points. It was hard to take that. I mean, I feel like with
see that.
Resident Evil 7, it kind of redeemed itself. I loved Resident Evil 7 and 8,
Yeah.
or Village. The remakes of the first game. No, the second game. They did a remake or a remaster or something of it. That was fantastic, but man, the lore in that series is rough. Yeah, that Resident Evil was good for me because it kind of
Challenging.
it reminded me that like if I don't love doing what I'm doing, like if I don't enjoy a project, I'm just gonna burn myself out.
Yes.
And I just about burned myself out with Resident Evil. But for a favorite, I go back to Dead Space.
Really?
The story of Isaac Clarke and the history of Unitology. Unitology? Oh,
Yeah.
I almost said Scientology.
Close enough.
Yeah, and the games were just so good. The remake that they had come out was it February of this last year was just 10 out of 10, knocked it out of the ballpark.
It was.
I would say the biggest surprise I had for lore might have been Hellblade, Son of Sacrifice. In video games, it bothers me so much, or in any sort of media, it bothers me so much when creators treat mental illness as the villain. You know, this guy is doing bad things because he's schizophrenic.
Right.
I hate that. And Hellblade did such a beautiful job of telling her story and not villainizing any aspect of it. You went with her on that journey. I appreciate Hellblade so much, and I'm looking forward to the sequels.
I'll bring it back to the lore for just a second.
Oh, okay.
With your Elden Ring series, did you? I mean, you did the lore on every possible ending, every side quest, I guess, that could turn into a hidden ending at the end. Did you play through the game that many times, or did you like get footage from other people who played it and you just talked about it, or like how did you do that without having to play the game like 8 times?
I played through it 3 times. One of them was on stream too. But the co-owner of the channel, essentially, who helps me out with things, a longtime friend of mine, viral_TV, he went through and played it, and he captured. I had another very dear friend who went through and captured their gameplay, and they sent it to me. So I had all my own footage, and I'd done the storytelling that way. But it is very, very common that, in particular with people that I know, they will help me out by capturing additional footage. Or sometimes if I just don't have time, if I'm behind on a project, the co-owner, Viral, will go through and play a game that I've been trying to get to and capture the footage just to save me like a couple days worth of work.
Nice. How long does it take you, do you think, to create one of these lore videos?
It varies quite a bit.
Maybe give us an estimate for like one of the like Hellblade or something versus like Elden Ring. That's like a 4-part series.
Oh man, Elden Ring was I want to say that was like a 2-month project, and you know the nature of being self-employed, you're always working really.
Sure.
But the most recent one, video on the channel, for example, Control, I had that done in a week. So there's a lot of variance. It's also like if I enjoy something, I'm going to work faster on it because it's easier to do. The scripting is really what takes so long. Because I say scripting, but really it's the timeline, it's the understanding, it's the putting it together, it's choosing the words, figuring out how to assemble your ideas. Like the scripting is really what takes a long time. But generally a project can be out within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
Not bad.
Do you find that you appreciate games more after you've completely dug into the lore and know everything about them?
Oh, yeah.
Or because I feel like that's sort of what your channel does. I told her this, and I think I even told you in the initial email that I sent you that was like, please come on our show so I can talk to you, was that I've watched videos on your channel of games that I love, that I've played more than once, and I got things out of your videos about the games that I still didn't know, and it helped me like appreciate the game so much more.
Glad.
And I think that's what I loved. I mean, like I said, Hellblade is one of my favorite games of all time, and I learned things in your lore video about that story that I didn't get out of either of my playthroughs or any of the three of them. The same with BioShock. Holy cow. The series that you did on BioShock just sort of like blew my whole mind apart. Silent Hill 2, one of my favorite games of all time. I mean, that it's on almost anybody's list that's been playing games for more than 5 years. If you ask them, they'll be like, Silent Hill 2 is on my list,
And rightfully so.
Yeah, of course. But, I learned things about, like, spoiler for Silent Hill 2 if you haven't watched it yet or played it yet. But I didn't realize her body was in the car at the beginning of the game. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I never got that.
And I remember having a discussion with a couple of community folks about that, because we went back and forth quite a lot based on the endings and how he was acting at the beginning, and it was a tough decision to put that one in. But yeah, absolutely. Once you piece it together, it does tell like a very easily missed story.
I have to ask this because spooky season is upon us, and we're all horror fans as far as I can tell. So if you had to tell me right now, what would you say are your top 3 favorite horror games?
What's interesting is when we were doing like the warm up to this, you'd mentioned Amnesia. Mm-hmm. I love Amnesia Rebirth. It is one of my favorite games. The story gets a little problematic in a couple points, but man, I love cosmic horror, like Outlast, Amnesia Rebirth, and Dead Space. Oh, be still my beating heart. I love them. I appreciate when a game isn't afraid to have an unhappy ending, because that's life. You don't always, the hero doesn't always win.
Yeah.
I think of Dead Space 3 at the end of the DLC, assuming they never come out with the Dead Space 4. I kind of hope they don't. It ended with like, you lose. Like,
Yeah.
There's no coming back from this. And I love when a game has the bravery to do that to their audience.
Okay, Tip, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yes.
I really
Thank
appreciate
you for having
this.
me.
Deigning to come down from on high and give your lore to the commoners.
Stop that.
So if viewers want to find you and watch your videos, where can they do that?
YouTube.com/Tiptoe the Tank, or you can on YouTube, you can search Tiptoe the Tank or the Lady of Lore. Or if you want to see a stream, you can come see me at twitch.tv/Tiptoe the Tank. I don't stream often, but you can find me over there.
We really appreciate you being on the show. I'm a big fan, and so this has been really special.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Everybody knows if you're a real gamer, you have more than one console. So if you do, and they're in different locations, you need managed Wi-Fi powered by Plume.
Each Plume pod grants you the ability to essentially have a hardwired connection in every room of your house. So if you're interested in a whole home Wi-Fi system, contact Conway Corp at 450-6000. Tell them to hook you up.